Sorry I was late. Just running late today. Hope it's not the case the whole day, but I got the Les Paul out. I had it out. It was sitting back there for a month and a half. I'm going to have to move that so I can actually see my screen. So yeah, I was just playing over basic blues and G, which you can see that chord progression right here, right there. Very, very, very simple, basic chord progression. So, I may show you a different one. Maybe the chord progression for Stormy Monday, which is kind of fun. Or something of that ilk, where there's a little bit more movement. You can do an even simpler version of this. You could get rid of the C7 in that first line and just play G7 for 4 bars, but I find that to be a little boring, especially when you're trying to teach some new scales. And then you don't get much opportunity to use them. So with the extra chords in here, it allows me to kind of use these scales here. So, but you could get rid of that first C, and then you could also get rid of the C on the bottom line and play D7 for 8 beats, and then back to G7 for 8 beats. But then you would go back to the top and play 4 bars of G. It just feels like you're sitting on G forever. So I like all the breakup on it. So it's a little bit more, it's a little busier, but by saying their hellos to each other. Let me say some hellos, give me some shout outs. Can I move this? Yeah, I can do not too much. All right, it's funny, I didn't check the Discord. It was like, people are like, is Tom going to go today? Today. I'm coming live today. Vito's like, is Tom coming? Yeah. It's funny, if I'm just a couple minutes late, everybody's like, wait, is Tom doing this? Sorry. I should set it at like not with a countdown, because you can do it like a countdown to it, I think. I've seen Rick Beato do that. Let's see. Okay, so I say Dennis, Bruce, Bob, Rick, AJ, Jim, Holly, John Kindon, good to see you. Bob, are you up? Yeah, I said hi to Bob. Okay. So pretty much, I'm with David Sillers in Scotland. Pretty much that's everybody. Everybody else is um, uh, either silent. We only have 13 viewers, so we'll just kind of hang out here for a minute and wait for some people to show up. Get your guitars out. And I just want to point out, and I'll probably have to mention this again in a little bit because I feel like I'm going to, let's see, let me shut this, not shut it, but make sure it's not the open window, the Discord thing, because it'll beep on me. Okay, so videos. I'm going to post the video that I was jamming to just so we have it here at the top. Okay, so if you are looking to play along with that blues track, that is basically that progression right there. I didn't upload this. Let's see. Where is that? The chord diagram thing. Let me see if I actually saved that. I may not have saved that. I did not. So sorry about that. But you can write that down or make a screenshot and cut it right here. But I'm talking about the jam track. Those are the chords in the jam track. Oh, in the chord. It should be in the jam track, right? Did I not put it in the jam track? No, it's on the jam track. So yeah, you can stare at it while you do the jam track. Okay. One thing I wanted to point out for not only beginners but intermediates and even some of the pros, where we're doing this right now, okay, where we're playing these particular scales. Okay, remember we started out at the 3rd fret and we moved up to 5th fret. Now we're at the 7th fret. Next we'll be in the 10th fret area. We may be like we'll have some notes on the 9th fret, but right here, this is kind of no man's land when it comes to knowing your fingerboard. Okay, a lot of people know the first 3 or 4 frets. Okay, get up to 5th fret. Okay, that's not hard because this is A, this is A, this is D, this is G, this is B. Because you're tuning, you kind of know the notes right here. And then if you know that note, like that's A, then okay, you can probably go, well, that's B, and if this is D, then this is E, and if this is G, this is A. You can kind of go, but then when you get up here, it's like it gets real fuzzy and kind of cloudy, and you're like, well, wait a minute, I don't know these chords or these notes. So we're gonna slow down a little bit here, and we're gonna do a little bit of work on that as well as these scales. The next one is also hard, but it's not so hard because if you know that this is Eat at Denny's, Get Bad Eggs, you know that this is Eat at Denny's, Get Bad Eggs. So if you just go 1 before E, you got D. If you go 1 before A, you got G. If you want to go a whole step below D, you get C. So you can almost figure out all the notes easily on the 9th or 10th fret. But it's like I said, the 7th to 10th fret area can be kind of a little bit, or 7th to 9th fret area, or 6th, whatever. This area can be kind of a little bit like, I don't know what notes I'm playing. And so that's kind of why I want to maybe hit on some basics here, where we're just going to play the root of the chord. And then maybe what we'll do is we may get away a little bit from the scale, but we can do the root of the chord and we can get away with the 5th of each chord. That's going to show up in the pentatonics. If I did the major 3rd, then that would be a B over the G, and that would be an F sharp over and that would be an E over the C, which we have in this scale right here, the 2nd scale. That's the change we made in that. So we do accommodate the C7 chord, and we play an E over, and don't stress. I know I'm using a lot of words right now, but there won't be a quiz on this. But we'll be jamming very, very simple jams, 1-note jams kind of thing, okay? And that will help just knowing where your G's are, where your C's are, and where your D's are. That will really help with you kind of finding your way around this section of your fretboard, okay? And it's just knowledge that adds on knowledge. It's kind of just like learning a foreign language. I'm doing that Duolingo thing. And they just keep hammering the same things over and over again. But it really, really helps because it makes it more ingrained that you can build on. And that's kind of what we're trying to do. We're trying to build on things here. So I'm taking a sip for the celebratory sip for the no quiz thing. Let's see what else is going on. What's our viewership like? 13. What is going on? Was that because I was 5 minutes late? Really? People are that impatient. Oh, Tom's not on. Okay, well, I'm going to work then. I touched my face, didn't I? I squeezed my nose. That's a poor man's nose pick right there. You squeeze your nose. All right, because only rich men can afford to pick their nose. Going for the gold, right? All right, so let's see. Let me just show you. Well, I mean, we don't have many people, but they can always go backwards in this and catch up. So maybe a lot of people should have this week off. Students, kids. Well, I don't have a lot of kids on this. Although they'll probably show up in a little bit as trolls, right? Okay, so we have two G's in this position. So one is at the 10th fret of the 5th string, okay? And one is at the 8th fret of the 2nd string. Let's just do this one for now, okay? So when the G chord is playing, we're just gonna hit this note, okay? And then we've got a C here, but that one's easy because if you know the E string, you can find C fairly well because you know your power chords. So let's go ahead and do the C down here, okay? 10th fret, 4th string. So that's going to be the C we're going to use. We'll go a couple times through the progression. Hopefully that's enough to kind of hammer these 3 notes in. But here's the G, okay? And here's the C. All right? And the D note we're going to use is going to be right here at the 7th fret of the 3rd string. So play that, okay? So this is what we're going to play over the 1 chord. The one. Here's what we're going to play over the 4 chord. The 4, which is C, right? And then we're going to play the 5 over the 5 chord, which is the D. Okay? That alone is a cool lick. Okay, so I'm going to hit the jam track. It's set at 70 beats per minute, so it's a little slower than the one that is there, but 3, here we go, right here. Now down to here, the C, back to the G. Let's hit it every downbeat. Okay, now to the C for 2 times. Back to G. Now we're going to grab the D in a second here, hit the G again. Now the D is here, 7th fret. Down to the C, and then the G, and then down to the D. Again, G, 8th fret, 2nd string. Down to the C at the 10th fret. Except pluck the right string. G, the G again. Then the C. Again, plucking the wrong string. Now back up to G. And then the D right here at 7th fret. 3rd string. Down to the C. And then up to the G. Now down to the D. Let's do one more time to this. See at the 10th fret there? See a whole step below that D? D to C to G. And then down to D one last time. All right. I know that's lame, but it's really good to kind of start to learn some. Oh, here we go, 23 now. We're getting up there. It's really good to try to kind of start to learn the names of the notes. I mean, that's one of the things I I say it's the most important thing to do if you're going to play electric guitar is to learn your fretboard, okay? And like I said, the most common place to have gaps is right in here at that 8th, 10th fret, 7th, 8th, 10th fret. You know, you get the first 5 frets down pretty good. You can play the 12th fret, maybe the 10th fret you might know, but you get in here, it's like this no man's land of you know, notes, and you're like, okay, where's everything? So that's a good way to kind of play the root. And I would do that with students if it was like a really complex jazz chord progression, and the chords were changing, you know, blah, 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 you know, just kind of going like, whatever, you know. If a lot of chords are changing, I would say, okay, we'll start with the root. Play the root of each one of these chords, you know, and then they would have to find the root. And I say, okay, now play the 5th of each of these chords. Okay, now play the 3rd, and now play the 7th of each of these chords. Now try to play the root in the 5th, you know, so you're like, you're kind of doing that thing. And then eventually you're kind of getting to the point where you can, you know, you can start playing through the chord progressions, but you kind of have to center yourself first on chord progressions. And even a simple blues, it's good to kind of play the roots. Now, it's funny, one time when I did that, we were doing that before, not that long ago. We were playing over the pop progression, right? I was talking about soloing, and I was using a pop progression as a solo. It was basically, I think, 6-4-1-5 or some very simple chord progression. And we played the roots of each of those notes, and then I got a copyright. I got a copyright infraction from YouTube for playing the root of every chord. I'm like, no, I challenged it and won. Somebody, you know, some bot claimed to have written a melody that contained the root of each chord, and I'm like, yeah, that's not cool. Hey, Peroni's here again. Good to see you again. Darren, good to see you. Let's see, Rick, yeah, you were there before. Ed, good to see you. You're new. Okay, that's only. Oh, Timothy. Hey, Chicago. Chicago's a great town. Chicago's like a doable New York. My dad is from Chicago. I have family back there, so you're new. Oh, good. Well, thank you, Timothy, for jumping in and saying hi. I'm here Bruce is going to tell you anyway, but I'm here. I try to be here every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 a.m. California time, which is your Central Time, so that would be 11 a.m. your time. And Chicago Timothy Authority, CTA, which was the original name for the band Chicago. I was just talking to someone yesterday about that, the documentary they did or whatever recently. It was pretty depressing. They're pretty bitter. So yeah, Timothy is new to the live stream lessons. So what we did there was we played the root of each of those chords. All right. If I were to play the 5th of each of those chords, all right, it would be a D over the G. And you can find the 5th just by playing a power chord. So here's a G power chord. There's the root. That's the 5th. When you play a power chord, I call it a 5 chord. Like instead of writing, I think back in the day, like in the 70s, they would write G power chord. It's like, really? Can I just call it G5? Because it's a G and a 5. And so I kind of coined the phrase G5, and that's common nomenclature now. I'm not taking credit for that, but I thought of it before it was a thing. So the 5th of G would be D, and then we go to the C chord. The 5th of C is G. So we're not learning any new notes here. So we're going to be playing, for the G chord, we're going to play this D note. Okay, and it should sound fine. It's about as inside as you can get, right? The most inside note is the note we just played, the root. And by inside, I mean the safest note you can play. If we played up a half step on every one of those roots, that would be considered the flat 9. That would be about the unsafest note you could play. Actually, probably the unsafest would be to go down a half step. Play a G flat over the G7 chord, because you got that 7th, and then you're playing an F sharp. That's just like all kind of wrong. I actually kind of like that chord now that I hear it. So maybe it's not all kinds of wrong, but it would sound like you're making a mistake. But the 5th is probably the next most inside note. If we were going to order the notes in order of what's the most inside, what's the most outside. And so the second most inside note would be the fifth. The fifth of G is D. So here's our D. So when we're playing the G chord, when the G chord's playing, we're going to play a D. Okay, so that's maybe a little bit counterintuitive. But we're going to slowly learn our fretboard this way. See? Okay, and then over the G chord, over the C chord that is the fifth, it's a G. But instead of playing this G, let's play this G. So that way we're learning a new G. Okay? Does that make sense? It's pretty low. It's the lowest of the two G's in this area. So we're going to be there. That's what we're going to play over the G chord, the D. And then over the C chord, we're going to play a G. And then over the D chord, we're going to play an A. Let's go to this one here. Okay? So this is a new note, the 10th fret of the 5th string. That's our new G. And then here's an A right here. We have two A's in this position. This one up here and this one down here. But let's stick with the low one for now. Okay? All right, so that's an A. I'm at the 7th fret of the 4th string. You can think of it like when you tune your guitar and you got two G's, right? G after G in the musical alphabet is A, not H, unless you're in Germany. Okay, so here's what we're going to play over the G chord, what we're going to play over the C chord, and what we're going to play over the D chord. All right, let's try that, see what it sounds like. Like I said, it should sound pretty inside. Shouldn't be too crazy. What did I say? Okay, now we want a G over the C. Kind of woofy. See, nothing. Sounds pretty harmless. Let's go to the other G. That one sounds better, I think, but back to the D, which is the 5th of the G chord. Now we're going to the D chord, so we're going to go to that A note right here. 7th fret, 4th string. I love that one. That sounds great. Go down to the G. That sounds good too in that context. And then the fun. And then, oops, there's our A. Sorry, my brain shut off. D. D over the G, which is the 5th. Okay, up to the G. Down to the D. I've never heard the term Pentatonic scales. And then the G over the C chord. The D over the G chord again. Here comes the D chord. We're going to go to A. To the G over the C chord. To the D over the... Okay? We go up to that. All right, that's good. That's enough of that. Okay, so that's just a way to kind of start to kind of figure out the notes that you're playing. I've never heard them called Pentatonic scales. Probably at some university somewhere they're saying that's the correct term. So I get people arguing with me. I was talking about the open G tuning, I think, or something, and I said a sus6 chord, and there goes no such thing as a sus6 chord. I'm like, I kind of like, if I say there is, there's a sus2 and a sus4, but there's no sus6. I'm like, yeah. I mean, if you take the 5th of a chord and go up a 6, that's just like you take the root of a chord, you go up to the 2, that's a sus2. If you take the 3, you go to the 4. Why can't that be a sus6? Oh, well, that's just a 6th chord. No, a 6th chord contains a 5th. If there's no 5th, it's a sus6. Well, then that's a, F sharp minor over A. Well, yeah, but we're talking the context of A. Don't get in an argument with me. This person was like insistent that there was no such thing as a G or a sus6. I'm like, that's fine. You never learned one, but You play a sus6 every time you do this. That's a 6. 5 to 6. Okay, John, that's a good question. There's as far not and keep in mind, I'm not saying best to worst. Okay, that's a very very important delineation. I'm saying inside to outside. Because the most outside note could be the very best note at that moment because you're setting up something. Does that make sense? For example, over the C7 chord, you could say that C sharp would be a horrible note to play over C7, right? No, but if you're going and the C chord comes up, it still sounds good because you're playing the blues note in the G minor pentatonic. So I'm not saying best to worst. I'm saying inside to most outside, and because I wouldn't ever say this is the best note to play or this is the worst note to play. The most outside. I mean, maybe I accidentally said it with the. I said, "Oh, play the F sharp," and I went, "Oh, this is." And maybe I said, "Well, that'd be like the worst note you could play." So maybe I did say that. So I apologize if I'm like confusing you with my jargon. But what I mean is the most outside note. As far as the third, it depends. The flat, over this, I would say probably the third is the next most inside note after the fifth, or maybe the dominant seventh. I would say probably the third is the next most inside note. And then I would say the seventh. And then you could probably make arguments on the next few notes, like the flat third. Where's that? There's no, like I said, there's a book that I can't find. I've tried to find it. I thought it was written by Herbie Hancock, and it was taking the pentatonic scales and lining up. Yes, the five resolves nicely. So does the flat third. But the five really, in fact, that's the next thing we could do. I don't think we're going to do it, but we could go over the G7. I could create little loops where we're just playing over one chord because the blues progression, this goes even at 70 beats per minute, goes by pretty quick for you to be thinking of the root and the fifth. Now, some of you might not have any problem. Timothy, you might not have any problem. John, you might not have any problem. But yeah, right, exactly. But I could do it if I looped one chord like this. Okay, so let me do the first chord. Probably gonna have a crash every bar. But it's like the world's most annoying drummer. Stop hitting the crash on every downbeat. See? D, G. This is what Timothy's talking about. I could go up to this 5 too. Okay, or I could go down. D, G. A question for Ronnie. Oh. Sorry. Oh, was there a question like further back by Peroni? And Holly, I'm so sorry to hear about your cat. Sorry, I saw that. I don't even know how old our cat is because she was a feral cat that we tamed, believe it or not. She's probably in the 10 to 11-year-old range. She's getting pretty old, actually, now that I think about it. And remember, she does not have a name. Okay, so I see my jaw's dropped anyhow. Let's see. Peroni said, different modes, of course, as long as you know where you are at any given time of the progression. I haven't gotten, have I gotten this bad boy down? So I picked a movie by selecting what mode you mess with overvamp. Yeah, totally mix and match is totally permitted. We got there's a lot of things to touch on right there. Okay, what we've been talking about, remember, is one of the most important things. And you said something, to know where you are at any given time in the progression. This is something where I'm awful at, really, really bad at. Okay, I'll never ever get good at playing over giant steps because I don't have that progression memorized, right? And that's the first step. You've got to have that progression so memorized you can eat it, you can play it backwards, inside out, forwards, whatever. And then you need to go through and you need to go, okay, analyze here I'm in the key of E flat, here I'm in the key of B, here I'm in the key of G. Those are the only 3 keys you're in giant steps. We're not going to do a tutorial on giant steps. But okay, now I can play the 1 3 5 7 on each chord. Okay, now I can play the 1 2 3 5 on each chord, and it's a path. And some guys will just pick up a guitar and you start playing giant steps and they can solo over, and you're like, whoa, it's almost interesting. But with the blues progression, I touched my face so we can take a sip. That's Timothy. We have a drinking game here. A lot of rules. If I touch my face, we all get to take a sip. So make sure you have libations handy. If I use air quotes, take a sip. If I mention that I played all the guitars on Apex Legends, you have to take a sip. If I drop a pick, that's a sip. If I drop a thumb pick, that's 2 sips. So I touch my face, which is a COVID no-no. Also, if I say there will not be a quiz on this, or hold up this mug that says there will not be a quiz on this, which you can purchase at my store. If I say that, there's a celebratory quiz. Okay, so perfect. Timothy got tea. That makes perfect sense. Timothy sounds like a tea drinker. Timothy, some more Earl Grey, please. Hey, I'm from Indianapolis. You know what we used to say about, what do Chicago housewives make for dinner? Reservations. Sorry. Okay, so the thing that I really, 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 really want you to do, though, is memorize this progression, the blues progression. I want you to be able to play it 10 times in a row without making a mistake. So that jam track that I posted, and I'll post it again right here in case you haven't seen it. Okay, this jam track, you can play along with it rhythmically. And that's the one I'm playing with, except this is a little slower. Oh, I got the bracket on. Hold on a second. Okay. I mean, you can use bar chords. You can use open chords if you want. You can go to... And there's 2 reasons for you to be able to play the blues without blanking up, okay? One is so that you can jam along with other people. Alex, you're not here, are you? I was jamming with Alex. We did a live stream a while back, and it's funny because I said, hey, let's do the blues. And he's like, he totally messed up. He like cut a bar out, and it was like 11 bar blues one time, and then it was like 13 bar blues. He didn't know where he was. And I'm like, okay, we're not going to play the blues. Because if you can play the blues without flaw, then you can jam with other people. Even if you're not a very good guitar player, if you can play the rhythm, you can let other people do the solos. What do you care? And when you're watching them play, you're learning. You're picking up stuff. When they're soloing over your G7, you go, oh, that was a cool lick. I like what he did there. And all that kind of stuff. So you learn a lot when you're playing rhythm, and you can jam with others. But no one will want to jam with you if you can't play a simple blues all the way through 10 times in a row without screwing up. In other words, without going 11 and a half bars or 13 bars, or going to the C chord too soon, or not going to the C chord at all, or being inconsistent with the progression. This is a standard progression. It's not the only blues progression. There's dozens and dozens of them. But this is a very standard one, okay? Then the other reason to be able to have the blues progression down is to tie into Peroni's statement that he made, which is 100% true, to know the progression so well that when you go to solo, you know what is coming up, okay? And then he asked about mixing scales. Oh, heck yeah. Over the G, I could play G minor pentatonic, okay? In fact, if we go back to the first lesson on this, we started, the G minor pentatonic right down to 3rd fret. You could also play the G minor 6 pentatonic over the G. Let me just play the G for a second. again, I'll do the bad drummer with the cymbal crash on every beat here. Right, so that's the minor pentatonic. Then I can do the minor 6 pentatonic. That would be more B.B. King, you know, the way he would play. Okay, I could play a blues scale, which is the minor pentatonic with the blues tone in there, which is the. I could play the minor 6 with a blues tone. Right? I could play the Mixolydian scale. Where is that? Is that right here? Woo! Look at that. G Mixolydian right there. But I can go back and forth at will. Okay, so yeah, 100% Peroni. You can go go change scales at will. That, you know, all the scales that work over that chord. You can totally go back and forth between all the different scales, which is a great way. Kind of ultimately what we're going to learn. But what I'm trying to show now is that this lesson that we've been working on, and I should have started with this before I did the pentatonic one. I mean before I did the Mixolydian one. You know, I'm flying by the seat of my pants here. I'm trying to come up with like, oh, what are we going to learn next? So I should have done the 3 pentatonic scale. We touched on this when I talked about blues way back when, blues basics. Okay, I touched on this. We're getting up there. Oh, hey, Gearview's here, and John Bell's here. Good to see you, John. Good to see you again. Jan, you're here. Awesome. Keegan, hey, good to see you. It's been a minute. Let's see. Good. We got a lot of. We're getting up there now. 41. Isn't that funny? Look at this climb. I can see a graph here on my analytics, and it's like this. Started with 13. Now we're at 41, 43. So everybody's waking up. I guess everybody has a day off. So sorry, let me get my windows in order here. Okay. So the cool thing I wanted to show you about this was, if we're going to use G minor pentatonic for over G blues, that's great. G minor pentatonic will work over all 4 chords. It gets a little weird over the D7 chord, the 5 chord, I feel like, but it's still doable, and a lot of players will just go like that. That lick right there works great over the D7 chord, and that's totally pentatonic. That's G minor pentatonic. So, and that up here would be. We're actually here in our new position. In fact, let me show you that lick. Okay, it's going to be hard for some of you, but put your first finger on the 7th fret of the 3rd string, which is a D note. And so this is a great lick over the. It works over the C. It works over the G. But because I'm hitting that C note, it's not quite as good over the G as the D. Over the D7, that C note is the 7th of the D. So you can play here. All I'm doing is I'm hammering on my pinky up 3 frets. So I'm playing D and then F and then back to D. And that is hard. Having the strength to hammer on and pull off your pinky like that is difficult. Something you can practice. Keep in mind, I am hammering on. In fact, I don't even need to pluck. See that? I've generated the tone just by hammering. That's how. And I'm really trying to use the tip of my finger, okay? Not the fleshy, meaty part, but the tip as much as I can, okay? And then here's the thing about pull-offs. They're not a pull-off. You're not pulling off, you're pulling down. You're plucking the string technique. Okay, so check this out. So I created a tone by hammering on. Now I'm going to mute this. I'm going to start from the hammer on note, and I'm going to pull off. See, if I pulled off like that, like straight up towards this way, No, it's not really going to. I'm pulling down towards the floor, which means you have to deaden the top two strings with this finger. Okay? Because if you don't, you're going to get those other strings ringing out. Watch. It's been a hard. It's just, I don't know why. It sounds like Hard Day's Night Chord. Okay. Oh, actually, I like the sound of that. I'm learning a lot today. I like this chord. It's dominant seventh with a major seventh. And I'm liking that. But in reality, we don't want that for this. And then I'm using my third finger to grab that C note there. So in slow motion, it sounds like this. It sounds like this. Screenshot. Everybody's taking screenshots. Like, oh, okay, that's going up on Discord. I can see it now. So I'm only plucking two notes. I'm plucking this note, hammer and pull off, and then I'm plucking this note. So that's why a lot of times you can do things faster because they're called legatos. You're doing pull-offs and hammer-ons. Those are legatos, and you only have to pluck once for a legato sometimes. Okay, so if I played the blues thing, the old reason I brought this lick up, let me just play the blues for just a second so you can hear that lick in context. So I'm only going to play G minor pentatonic, okay? So I'm just playing that top scale. This is that 5-1, Timothy. There's that new lick. Okay, so anyway, so that's, yeah, rock and roll, right? That might be how Jimmy Page might do that, but I also think what's his name? Eric Clapton would do that, I think. All right, so, but the reason that this lesson, what we've been talking about, is making a minute change to your basic minor pentatonic to make it accommodate the chords a little bit more obvious, okay? And so one way you can do that is to take this G minor pentatonic and take the Fs and make them E's, and now you got that B.B. King kind of happy blues scale. But it works really well over that C chord because now you've got that E note, which is the third of the C chord. And without that change, you have an F note, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with. I was doing that over the C. It wasn't awful, but that F note can really rub that C chord, that C7 chord, kind of wrong. So if you get rid of the F and play an E instead, you get a more inside scale that works better over the C chord, works more inside. Okay, and then to take that G minor, go back to the G minor pentatonic. Okay, to take that G minor chord and G minor pentatonic scale and make it more fit even better with the D7. Okay, more inside with the D7. We take the B flats in this scale and make them A's, and now we've got, and that's like something that Stevie Ray Vaughan would do a lot, right? And I hear him do that a lot. So that A note really sounds really cool over that D7 chord, especially in the context of the G blues. Okay, so that's kind of what we've been doing. Okay, question from John regarding what scales go with what chords. Oh, that's what I'm answering right now. Who is this guy? All right, so was that your question, John? I'm looking for up higher. Okay, yeah, so that's exactly right. So the idea is the first scale here. Sorry, first scale up here, right there. Okay, that is that's we're in practice. We're playing that over the G chord, this over the C7 chord, and this over the D7 chord. Okay. This one's not as obvious because the title of it is G minor 6th pentatonic. So you're kind of like, you know. This one, G minor, is this one is obviously for the G chord, and this one's obviously for the D chord. I could have called this something else, maybe C mixolydian pentatonic or something like that. But it's technically just a G minor 6. It's like a G minor 6 chord outline for the most part. So, all right, now. Oh, regarding the slow mo, yeah. Yeah. I should go, no. I don't know if you ever saw it. Well, that's Bill Murray on Caddyshack referencing. It's like a double reference if I were to do no. But it's Bill Murray referencing $6 Million Man. So it's like a double. It's a double. What's that called? Shoot, you make a reference to some TV show of long ago. Yeah, Keegan, it is just coffee. Yeah. A venti pike. So, yeah, no, I guess I'm in a good mood. I don't know. Beth has a week off. That makes me happy. I like having her around. Well, she's around, but she was working her butt off, man, when she was subbing. She's done subbing for that class, so that's good. She was working like 12-hour days, 7 days a week, because she was prepping all sorts of stuff, grading papers, entering stuff, all that. Yeah, that's all right. Okay, so let me, and let me grab the Discord link, okay? If you're not a member of the Discord, you can join up there. I upload all of the diagrams, any paperwork I create, I scan and send up there. I've got up there also in the Tom's Bookmarks, I think. Is that where I put it? The list of, you can see on Tom's Bookmarks the list of all the lessons so far I've done for the COVID thing. Okay? And in the introduction, you can see my backyard. Let's see. Or part of my backyard. That's just part of my backyard. Where's the link? It's getting up here. Okay. Very good. Got the link. Copy. So this is a link. Should not expire, I think. And basically, it takes you to the intro page, kind of the rules. Try to be cool to each other. No trolling. They'll kick you off if you're trolling and being jerks and starting fights and things like that. There's nothing to fight about. It's guitar, for God's sake. So, unless you want to argue with me about the existence of a sus6 chord, I'm like, then what's that? Oh, and we may have a troll now. Speaking of. Okay, go to work, Timothy. I don't want you to get in trouble. All right. You got this, Bruce? Put him in a timeout. Just put him in a timeout. See if he jumps to another. I can do this. All right. Truth or dare, Tom? Yeah, no. I'm not going to do truth or dare. Okay, so let me play a little bit over this jam, okay, and using these scales, all right? And I do have a job to do today. right, so sorry, I was just got a client. String gauge is always fun to argue about. Yeah, you saw the recent video where what's his name? Rick Beato put on like nines. Let's see. Okay, so let me just do it. I did this at the beginning. I'm gonna do it right now. I'm just gonna play over this. So here's the G minor. Now G minor 6. Then minor, back to the minor. Now minor 6. There's the D minor pentatonic. Back to the G minor 6, or minor pentatonic. Now, there's the 6, and now back to the G minor. There's that E. There's that minor 6 pentatonic. Back to the G minor pentatonic. The minor 6. To the okay, so, and again, that's a situation where I'm actually changing the scale to accommodate the chord change. You don't have to do that. G minor pentatonic pretty much works all the way through it, a blues progression, and that's why people use it. G minor blues scale works with it, and that blues tone would be there. This sounds great. I love the sound of that. But the G minor, so basically what I did was I was right there when I was jamming, I was playing the G minor pentatonic over the G. I was playing the C minor 6 pentatonic over the C chord, and then the D minor pen over the D chord. Okay, and all that does is it makes the scale, the notes that you're playing, kind of accommodate the chord a little bit more, and in some ways, maybe to your audience, make it sound like, oh, he knows that they're on the 5 chord. Like I said, I hear, I would hear Stevie Ray Vaughan do that note, hit that A note over the G blues when he got to the C or the 5 chord, the D chord. I would hear him do that and go, oh wow, that sounds cool. And it's like I didn't realize what he was doing. Peanuts in Coca-Cola. I have a vague. We used to do what's called a suicide. I don't know if you ever had a suicide, but that's where you go to the soda fountain and you put a little bit of everything in there, like 7-Up and Coca-Cola and orange and root beer, and you put them all in. The peanut thing. I have a vague memory of something like that. Peanuts and Coca-Cola. I don't know why, but like salted peanuts. Yeah, it could be good. You got that salt and sweet thing going on. I could see where that could work. Yep, 7-Eleven suicide slurpees. Oh my gosh. Now, if it was really cool, if the guy made it behind the counter, if he was really cool, he would make it for you, right? Like that would be fun too. If you knew the guy and he would make you suicide slurpees. And the crazy thing about like slurpees, when you do suicide, it kind of comes up in layers. So you kind of go through. I remember that, but when you do suicide in a just like soda, it kind of tastes like every soda. And I always thought, well, you know, if you think if with this sip, if you imagine 7-Up, it tastes like 7-Up. If this sip you want Coke, you imagine Coke and it tastes like Coke. That's the crazy thing about suicides. Chocolate covered peanuts are always good. Probably my favorite candy is Reese's peanut butter cup. If I'm gonna have a thing, but what I like to do is freeze them and then scoop up peanut butter with them. So I like extra peanut butter. But the belly doesn't appreciate it. Yeah, I gotta go run 10 miles if I do that. Okay, so put the sauce in the drinks? No, don't do that. Arby's sauce in the no. That is not going to be good in any world. Let's see. Tom, it's easier for me to think of notes as frequencies, and then what you know, a piece of music, how it flows, just scoop through the frequency notes. Like you can, I've never learned it that way. I can read MIDI, like I've had composers give me, like I reading a MIDI chart, but that's different than frequencies. That's like, okay, so here's A440 is this. So 440, you see you hear 440 when you hear that. Yeah. Keegan, you can play the blues scale a lot of different ways, but basically what you're going to do is you're going to add the blues notes to pentatonic scales. So there's 5 pentatonic scales, and within that there's 5 blues scales. But as far as how to play through it, that could be a lot of different ways, you know. I mean, you can bend into it. You can pluck the notes individually. You can hammer them on. And both of the G minor pentatonic here, we can add the blues note to, which would be this or this, which is kind of out of position. But if I'm playing, like if I'm jamming on this G minor pentatonic up here, okay, and if I'm kind of jamming, if I'm kind of having fun in that little box shape right there, I know that the blues thing is right there. You know, the number one thing that people choke on is eating peanut butter out of a spoon. It's the number one choking. So I'm always like, when my daughter does it, I'm like, oh, be careful. Because you can't, if it goes down the wrong pipe, there's nothing you can do. So be careful. That's why I'll usually have it, if I do peanut butter, I'll put it on something like a banana or, you know, where it's less likely that you're just going to accidentally inhale it. Oh, how to combine the blues note scales. Yeah, I mean, that just takes time. As far as Rick's lucky, he hasn't choked yet on. It just takes time before you start to incorporate that, and you find those magic moments to do it. So let's find a snippet. Let's do a little snippet here. Let's do this one. I think we did this one before, but I'll add the blues note to this one. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to play on the 5th string. We're going to play the 8th fret, then the 10th fret, 8th fret, and 10th fret, and then for this is G minor pentatonic. There's our G. Okay, that 10th fret. So 8, 10, 8, 10, 8, and 10. Land on that. Okay. Let me just play. We're just going to play over the G chord. With the annoying drummer. Yeah, dang it. Okay. Here we go. Just do that much. That's because you're ending on the flat 3, the B flat. It sounds really good over that G7. Okay, do it one more time. Shoot. there with your pinky. 11th fret on the 4th string. Just hit that. You gotta make a stink face, okay? Like something smells bad. Somebody farted in the band. Okay? So I'm going 11, 10, 8, 10. And that's the G. I'm ending on the G. Okay? Good to see you again, Keegan. Thanks for watching. Yeah, get those straight A's, man. Come on. Make me proud. We go up now, too. We go. I expect you to post your report card up on Discord. Okay. Now I'm hitting this blues note is a flat 5. There's the 5, or it's here. Neither place is very convenient to this little box shape. But it's a little bit easier up here. So we go. I'm on the 9th fret of the 1st string. 9, 8, 11, 8. Okay? Try that. 9, 8, 11, 8. Oops. Ah, sorry. Okay, but the nice thing about this position is that I have that 5th. So we go 10, 9, 8, 11, 10. So there's a lot of fun licks you can do in there, okay? This is the 140th lesson of COVID. I started out doing them every day. Yeah, I started out doing them every day. The first 62 lessons, I literally did 7 days a week for 62 lessons. I was so like, what am I going to do? You know, work. I mean, a lot of live work. I don't do a lot of live work. I mostly do studio work and I write. And then I play at my church on the weekends. And we're still doing that. We're meeting. We're actually paying a fine to the state or to the city of Los Angeles. You know, we're like, nope, we're meeting. So we just pay the fine every week. It's crazy. But people are showing up in droves. You know, we have a lot of people. We haven't had any COVID events, really. We've had reports of a lot of people getting COVID. We've had some people in the band get COVID, and then they had to like take a couple weeks off, but they never had symptoms. They just tested positive because they were being tested for something else. Like I've gotten asked to be tested for doing different video shoots and things like that because they, want everybody tested, and I told them no, and they had me do it anyway. So, I don't know. Yeah, all the lessons are listed in the Discord. So I just recently put the Discord link up. Did I not? Or how long ago was that? Was that too long? Too long ago? Okay, we're down to 34. So we peaked at around 42 or 43. Man, when did I post that? Quite a while ago. Oh, it's up there. You can see it. It's not that far up. And the rules are there. You can do a little intro too if you want, Timothy. But you can see a list there in my Tom's Bookmarks. Not only that, you can download all these diagrams, like all these scale diagrams that I do. They're all there individually, and you can download them and put them in like a Word doc and organize them any way you want. You could print up a page with 10 of those on it if you want. Totally fine. Great for if you're trying to teach. We've got 2 more of these sections to do, okay? The last section is going to be up here in the 12th fret, so if you're an acoustic player, you might have a difficulty playing it, some of these shapes. But this is pretty advanced stuff. It's not, I mean, this is intermediate, I would say. I wouldn't say this is advanced pro level stuff. Pros know these scales pretty well. But this is pretty intermediate stuff, and so it's not really for beginners, but the pentatonic that's a beginner thing. And then what I'm doing is I'm saying, look, if we make one little change to this, it makes for a cool scale that works really nice over the C chord. And by the way, it also works over the G chord. So you could use it over both, giving you options. What I'm trying to do is and I've talked about this in the past, is, when you soloing is a road with many forks, and so one of the forks that you can choose to when you're soloing is, am I going to play over the key? Am I going to play just in the key? Okay, am I going to just not acknowledge the chord change at all? If the chord, this is basically a G blues, so you can play G blues scale will work fine. Are you going to just do that? I'm just going to play G blues scale. I'm not going to acknowledge. I may acknowledge with my note choices in the blues scale that the chord has changed, but I'm not going to do a different scale for each chord. Okay, that's one way to that's one fork goes this way. The other fork that goes the other way is you go, oh, you know what? The chord is changing. Let me make a change to the scale to make it accommodate it more. That's a different way. So you're basically playing over each individual chord. Okay. Same thing, like we talked about this, and I feel like when you have these extra scales, you have this option. But one way to play over a chord progression is like to play over each individual chord, right? So when it goes G, you got G lick, and then it goes to C, and it goes back to G, and you go, and then it goes to C. Then it goes to G. And then it goes to the D chord. Then it goes to the C chord. And what I'm doing is I'm playing a lick over each chord. That's one way. That's one fork in the road. Okay, you can play over each individual chord. But another fork, another way to approach that, and it doesn't have to be an either-or thing. You can change it within a 12-bar blue phrase. You can go in 12 bars. You can do it both ways. But the other way would be to play through the chords, and the difference there is you're continuing over the bar lines. In other words, I may play a lick that highlights the difference between G7 and C7. Okay, so I might do it might go. See that? And then now you can hear, when I do that, you can hear the chord change. So I'm like. You can kind of hear the chord progression change through those phrases because I was really almost trying to make sure that the last note you heard over G was the B flat and the F, and the next note you heard over C was the E. I chose that point of change. Okay, the difference between G minor pentatonic and G minor 6 pentatonic is the F goes down to E. And I use that point of change to highlight the fact that I'm in playing over a new chord. And that really makes, you can hear, it's particularly effective if you're playing with a drummer and a bass player and you don't have another guitar player, right? I think if I was playing in that context with a trio, I would be much more likely to play through chord progressions or over changes, making observations about with my note selections, making points about like, okay, when I go to the from the G to the D, I'm going to make sure I go to that B flat to the A to highlight that I know that the chord went from G to D. Don't worry, there's no quiz on this. Okay, sorry. I know I'm talking over a lot of heads here, but a lot of you have heard me say this many times. Okay, but I think if you were playing in a power trio, it would naturally morph you into that kind of guitar player. If you're playing with another guitar player who's playing chord changes, you might be the kind of guy that would be like, okay, I'm a guy, gal, player, whatever. Guy, I'm using guy in the least gender, in the most gender neutral way. I hate that stuff. Okay. So I might, if I'm playing with another guitar player and he's playing the chords, or a piano player, or somebody that's actually playing harmony, not just a bass note, then I might be more prone to kind of, not point out those chord changes so much, because it's going to be really obvious to the audience because somebody's already doing it, right? Somebody's playing a chord. So now, a good bass player, not a good bass player, the right bass part sometimes is, right? Sometimes it's, where you're actually outlining the chords. Every song's different. Like that might not work. That kind of bass line might not work on every song. It might sound too dorky, but just playing the root is kind of heavier, darker, more bluesy in some ways. That's more jazz. But a lot of bass players will play blues that way too. So, okay, I'm fig something out, but I'm not sure what it is. Oh, Peroni, did you ask me a question about a lick? Was that you? Who was that? Or that may have been a Vito. Sorry, I get you mixed up with a Vito. It was on YouTube. It was in comments. It was like, what did you do at this point? What was that lick? Hold on a second so I can find that. You get a lot of comments, so it kind of things drop down. Somebody said, do you know how to play a third fret on a guitar? It's like, what? People's goofy. I don't. Okay, but the lick, I looked it up, and it was, I don't see the question. That's so funny. It was on a live. Oh, wait. Oh, it probably responded. That's why. Okay, let me. Sorry, I'm just looking for this. Oh, it was a Vito. Yeah, it was a Vito. Vito, are you here today? I don't see Vito. Well, I'm not going to show. I'll remember the lick because it was this thing. It was something like. Something like that. So stay tuned. I'll show that lick when a Vito's back because he wanted to know what the heck that was. But that's a very good kind of what you might call a double stop lick. Double stops are when you play two notes at once. Like if I do something like that would be a double stop. Let's see. Double stops could also be. I think you could call that, like that's a double stop. Okay, so let me see. Yeah, John Bell. That is what you want to learn. What is something I said? Oh, it's buffering. Dang it. Sorry, Jan. It's good right now. I haven't noticed that it changed colors. Let me see. Stream health. Yeah, nothing so far. Okay. All right. So, hey, Holly. So, do you have another cat, or was that the only cat you had? And are you going to get another cat? And if so, how do you find another cat? You're like, I mean, I understand going to the pound and trying to find someone that, an abandoned cat or whatever, but I don't know. Or do you want a kitten to start? I don't know. But I told the story about our cat. I think I can tell. We could do story time, and we haven't done story time in a while. Diane is not here anymore, so Diane. I mean, but we didn't finish our snippets. You can do an F and A power chord. F, A. You can just do 2 fingers if you want. 21-year-old cat. Wow. Oh, you lost your cat a few years ago. Yeah, yeah. I mean, we got our cat kind of accidentally. It kind of the kids we weren't supposed to have pets. That's why our cat doesn't have a name. The lease stated that we're not allowed to have pets, so I figured the loophole would be if our cat doesn't have a name, it's not a pet. It's just a cat that showed up. So she's had a lot of different names, and I thought just because kids had to call her something, and I would just call it cat, hey cat, but we never she never gave her a name, and and I thought, oh, I could call her Loophole, but then she'd have a name, and then she'd be a pet, and then I'd have to get rid of her, and then it would no longer be a loophole. So I was like, okay, well, we can't call her Loophole, and we can't call her anything, and then if the owners ask, it's like, well, just a cat. I don't know. Hanging out in our apartment all the time. Just shows up. But she was feral. She would not, you couldn't get near her. So we would put a bowl of food outside our door and she would eat it. And then we put the bowl of food, instead of 6 feet out in front of our door, 5 feet. And then that day she would eat 5 feet out and then 4 feet. And we eventually got her into the apartment, but we had to be way far away from her. And she would eat that bowl, the food. And if we made a move towards her at all, she would run out the door. So, eventually, she slowly got further. We brought her further into the apartment. Then when I went out the outside and shut the door from the outside, so she couldn't run. And then she actually ran up on the chair, up on Jack, climbed up Jack, and then climbed up on the curtains of the ceiling because she couldn't go out the door. I was like, oh gosh. And she eventually she had kittens, and that's what happened. She had kittens in Emma's closet because it was a safe place. And then from that point on, she was fine staying in the apartment. So she still doesn't like being picked up or anything. She hates being picked up, but she likes being pet. But anyway, come as we are. Let's see. Wait. Dennis, is that what you were asking? Struggling with stretch my first third finger top. Oh, from Nirvana? I think that's in like drops. Is that? It's just drop D. He's not going. He's not. Yeah. I don't know if you knew that, but he's just laying his finger down. It's just one finger. Oh, that's lithium. Oh, sorry, you're right. Come just as. Come. I have to hear it. Yeah, super late. I'm about to leave. I actually got to do some work, but you can watch this, Whitson. Let's see. Yeah, I have to do some acoustic stuff. Fortunately, no one's hammering or pounding next door, which is good. Green Sleeves is an excellent beginner song. Yeah, Green Sleeves is, yeah. I mean, it's funny because on one of the beginner songs, the things is like playing single notes is beginner, but it's kind of like jingle bells, jingle, that's kind of like lame. And then, but so many people when they first start out, it's like playing chords on guitar very hard sometimes. Getting a good sound out of the C chord, basic chords. That's the one chord in the key of C, the most common key. On piano, it's super easy. My Michiko, or keyboard player at church, says even a cat can play piano. Speaking of cats, but guitar, you actually have to make the chord, so it's a little bit more difficult. And other than piano, it's the only real harmony instrument for the most part. Violin is a solo instrument, saxophone is a solo instrument. You go down on cello and clarinet, and flute, and name all the other instruments. But piano is a comping or a chord instrument, but you don't need to make the notes. The notes are already there for you. So guitar, it can be a difficult thing, but yeah. Shoot, I don't want to pull it up because if I pull it up, then I'll get the copyright strike. I don't want to do that, so I might get in trouble with that lithium. I'm bad with names too, obviously, Peroni. So I'll listen to it later to see if I can maybe give you some help on that on Wednesday if you remind me, if you show up. Yeah, Johnny Be Good is a fun solo to learn. I usually would teach that to beginners, but it's not easy. And to get it exactly like he's doing it, of course, to get that vibe is not easy, especially some of the bends. But Johnny Be Good, as far as rhythmically, it's not that hard. I think it's in B flat, and it's like, it's like. I don't know if you ever heard the original. He doesn't say country boy. He says N-word boy on the original recording of that. Way down Louisiana. He was like that. And I think the 5-chord goes like that. So I think that's pretty standard rhythm. But to play 4 minutes of rhythm is kind of boring, and everybody wants you to hear. Oh, you want to hear Johnny Be Good, and then you go da 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 da. And people are like, well, that's not Johnny Be Good. But the solo part of it, I have taught to many students privately, and yeah, I'm sure. There's a lot of lessons up there. I gotta again be careful. I may get if I get a copyright strike on that. If you hear a gap in this video, it's because I agreed to it, because that is a copyright violation right there. Although that is a solo, I don't know how much solos are copyrightable as opposed to melodies, but that's pretty iconic. And he hasn't been dead that long, so as 75 years after his death, then it'll be public domain, and people won't care to learn it at that point. Probably they won't. They probably will never hear it. They'll be like, never heard that song. Yeah, Green Sleeves. Green Sleeves is public domain, so that one I could play. Yeah, that one I'll play it on the cheap. But I guarantee you someone's tried to copyright that on YouTube if I were to play it. And this is tuned down a whole step, I think. Yeah. Trying to get kind of a lo-fi. It's A minor to G to F to E, but see, if you struggle with the F chord, it's a trouble. And then I think it goes. It's weird because I've heard it both ways. The C chord with the G on top. That would be in key, but I think it's technically. Yeah, we'll be good. I'm just messing around. Anyway, second best thing after, like Tom said, second thing best after a guitar teacher, I would recommend learning tons from there. Oh yeah. Oh, Johnny Be Good is on Fender Play. That's good. Heck yeah. I mean, it's such a fun thing to play. I've done it. I've actually sung it in bands and played it, and it's just a fun. I mean, if you're a fan of Back to the Future, you know, it's kind of one of those you must learn. And it's very classic. It's kind of the original rock guitar solo. Yeah, Stairway to Heaven solo is a fun one to learn too. That one's not impossible. Some of the Eddie Van Halen stuff, like you try to learn the solo to beat it, that's a toughie. But Stairway to Heaven solo is actually pretty, for the most part, pretty doable. I would teach that to, oftentimes when I would get beginners, they'd be 13, 14, 15 years old. And those, when you're that young, your brain and your hands are like sponges. You just learn. And I had students that I couldn't teach fast enough. I thought I was giving them hard stuff, and they would have it mastered by the next week. And so it's harder when you're older to do that for a myriad of reasons. But I still want to do that interview with Kelly's dad, who's a rheumatologist, because I do have subscribers that have asked about, what about if you have arthritis and all that. So, okay. Oh, Holly, what? Oh, no, Holly, yeah. Sorry, Holly's always there. I saw hello, Holly. I was like, wait, what? Okay, Max, I'm getting ready to take off. So, because I got some work to do, and I'm going to try to write some music for somebody, and then I am going, we're at 34 right now. That's not bad. Okay, we kind of, what was our peak here? 39, 41, 41. I guess I looked at, 41 is the peak, so it wasn't bad. I'll be here Wednesday and Friday. Friday's going to be a holiday for a lot of people, so I don't know if there are going to be a lot of people on, or a lot of people are going to be gone doing stuff. Gary's probably off hunting, if I know Gary. So no worries, John. Sorry, a little scatterbrain today, but I'm going to stick on this. I think I'm going to stay one more lesson on these three shapes, okay? And then we're going to move up to basically the 10th fret with maybe a note or two on the 9th fret. No, I think just one note on the 9th fret. So basically we can consider the next bit of shapes is going to be on the 10th fret. I think possibly the next lesson could be done in open position. I'm trying to think if there's anything that's at the 11th fret. There's nothing. Oh, the B flat. No, I'm not going to play B flat there. So who knows? But the next lesson will be at the 10th fret, and then the next one after that will be at the 12th fret. And if it's purely at the 12th fret and doesn't go to the 11th fret, then potentially we could play everything in open position as well. So if you're playing acoustic, you could do that. So I may have to do two sets of scales. I might have over here. I might have two sets of scales, one for 12th fret and one for open position, so that so our acoustic players can join in. Okay. All right. Excellent presentation. Good work. All right. So I will see you on Wednesday, probably around, hopefully at 9 and not 9:05. Of course, now I'm getting all these people showing up. When are you showing up now? Gosh, people. Brony, thanks so much for today, Tom. Make a penny music. I'm sending butterscotch from London. Awesome. Hey, Paul Meyer. If you've been here the whole time, you just didn't want me to talk about you. So Paul was like, "Yeah, I'm just lurking in the shadows." That's all good. And then, so like I said, I'm gonna stick with this shape one more time because I felt like I was just touching on it, not enough here. But I think we'll do some snippets. We'll do some snippets. Work on these scales more if we haven't already. Okay, so that'd be 3 lessons on these or 4 lessons on these. Oh no, 3 I guess because we started on Saturday. So then I'll move it up and we'll do another set of these. Okay, all right. Catherine, good to see you. What can I say? Late to the party. That's all right. You can go back. I'll be back on Wednesday. Lily. Okay, we got a troll. Hey, it's okay. I make money off of trolls too, right? All right. So I'll see you guys later. Hope you're doing well. Oh, you said hi when you joined. Oh, that's funny. I totally missed that. It goes by so fast sometimes, especially if I have a sippable offense. Sorry, I missed that, Paul. That's all right. I wouldn't have been talking about you anyway. Okay, so so Wednesday at 9 my time. God bless you all. Thanks so much for watching.